We're refueled after our little mishap last week in a testy spot, but we're not in the clear yet with navigating through trickier areas late in the season.
Very particular in this area because the currents can get up to 8 knots. And not only can they get up to 8 knots, whirlpools, and all sorts of nasty stuff.
In the UK, we've had to make a couple of adjustments to being able to live in the marina and plug Jibsea in.
You can do it very cost efficiently.
Welcome to Sailing Jibsea. 2 years ago, we knew nothing about sailing, but took off from Canada with an urge for adventure. I'm Steph. This is Travis, and this is our home, Jibsea. We moved quickly, and in a short time, have made it down south and even crossed an ocean. But we still have a whole lot more of the world to see. Subscribe and join our life on the water.
We left Oban this morning after waiting out some pretty strong winds for the last 3 days. We're gonna try to make it to Gia. It was an island we first stopped at in Scotland on our first time around coming up. It's about 8 hours today, and the next hour is an area I wasn't too excited about, kind of planning this route up here, just because looking at when the currents are in this area, for us to have them in our favor, we have to travel through at dark because the currents can get up to 8 knots. And not only can they get up to 8 knots, there's conjunction points which create whirlpools and all sorts of kind of nasty stuff and scary if you can't see anything. So I hope the wind holds off until we kind of get through this one area, because I couldn't imagine being in this area with a whole bunch of wind too, even if we could sail it. There's a lot of little islands around, unexposed land, and all sorts of stuff that make it difficult in just daylight really too when you're dealing with that kind of current. But I'm just going off of what's on Navionics, and I know the directions are good and the times are relatively pretty accurate. Where it becomes crazy is in this area. You have all these meeting points, and the current can get pretty crazy in here. Right there, so it is. We're just going through the area that I was most concerned about, and yeah, it's nice and calm. So far so good. And we just picked up the current. It's now switched, so we're doing 8 knots. That's awesome. See if the wind stays true, because it opens up a little bit where I can aim into the wind, raise the main, and then when I veer off, we actually should be veering away from the wind a bit to get a better wind angle. And then hopefully we can sail the rest of the day. And plus we'll have some current with us, so I think it'll be good. We're gonna motor till right about here. And then we can aim into the wind.
The wind gods were kind to us, and we were able to press on to our final destination. Jibsea's all docked up, and because we are in the UK, we've had to make a couple of adjustments to being able to live in the marina and plug Jibsea in. Yeah. So our boat is a North American boat, 110 volts, and here they run 220 volts. So we've had to make some small adjustments, and the way we went about it is how we thought would best suit our needs for while we're here, because A, we're not planning on being in colder climates for a prolonged period of time or plugging into marinas. We're just not marina people. We wanted to do it. Secondly, the cheapest. So this is what works for us. It's been working so far. Basically what we need to be plugged in for over the winter is charging the boat and heat. First off, we have 16 amps of power here at this dock to work with.
A lot of North American marinas, you get 30 amps of power. Here, that's kind of a rare thing to find. We mostly have seen 16 amps of power.
With that 16 amps, we pay per kilowatt hour used, which is kind of different than what we've been used to in North American marinas. At least back in our home dock, we had 60 amps of power in the winter that was kind of built into our fee. So we ran 60 amps of power 24/7, and we knew that's what we had to work with. But here we've got 16 amps, which we are maximizing. We could purchase another shore power box, another 16 amps, but we're not trying to spend all of our money. So with charging, you can go into how we charge the boat.
Yeah, so we hummed and hawed quite a lot coming over here on what we were going to do because we knew we were going to come to a marina for the winter. And you can either get a transformer that converts 220 to a 110. You have to make sure it also converts the hertz. And those are pretty hard to find. And if you do find them where we are, they're really expensive, like into the thousands, and we just didn't want to pay that. The next option is you can do an inverter charger, but those only made sense to us if we were going to buy European appliances, which we don't plan to. So our third and best and cheapest option was just to buy a charger. We went with a 15 amp Victron charger. It's only 15 amps, so you don't need big cabling to the batteries. It was really easy to install, and it just comes with an extension lead that you would plug normally into a European socket.
So what we got was we went to the hardware store and purchased an extension cable unit.
Yeah, just a normal construction extension cord, and just converted the head on it to plug into the shore power. It's just like a normal extension lead. It doesn't plug into the boat. It just comes down into a nav station. Then we plug our charger into it, and then we also run our little space heater off of it. Very cheap in comparison to buying like a marine cable. That was going to cost us like $150.
I think this was, how many pounds was it, or euros? I can't remember.
£9.
Humming and hawing because we were trying to do this as cheap as possible. Yeah. He was standing in the aisle with two of them going, do I need this length or that length? Where's the power box going to be? Because we obviously hadn't been at the berth yet, so we didn't know.
All to save like 5 to 10 pounds or something like that.
Seriously, just get the longer one because if it's too short.
Making it up.
Didn't plan on, like Travis said, buying other appliances, but if we did need to buy appliances, we could just plug it directly into that extension little box thing. So
yeah, we just figured we wouldn't be because it'd be obsolete on our boat, and I do know a lot of the world is 220, but I think, you know, we won't go into that.
Yeah, we're not changing everything on our boat. It is what it is.
We knew we weren't going to be needing a ton of amperage to charge the boat because our fridge and freezer, they stay pretty cool up in this climate.
The fridge and the freezer were what used most of our power when we were in the hotter climates, but now they're pretty much just, I don't even know how often they run, but it's pretty cold. We're underwater and the water is cold, so.
Yeah, I don't hear the condensers come on very often. What we need the power for is charging laptops, phones, keeping the lights on. The biggest draw from the shore power is our little space heater. We don't get any of our renewable energy right now.
It's noon right now, and this is where the sun's coming from. This is the most sun we've had in a long time because it's predominantly cloudy and rainy, so we don't even rely on the solar. As for wind, a lot of people ask us about the efficiency of the wind generator that we have. It's great when we're sailing. We don't really rely on it. It's more of like a little top up, but here at a marina, we don't factor that in. I think we have it turned off right now.
Yeah, I've got the wind generator tied off because we need to get new bearings for it because the hot climate kind of melts the grease out of the bearings after a couple years, so they start to get a little louder, so it's on the list. But I got it tied off right now because it's not going to do anything anyways. Yeah,
so pretty much all of our energy is coming from the shore power. First thing we actually bought at the hardware store was a big radiator, a 1500 watt radiator oil heater, and we tried that initially, and I literally had to hover over and be like, is this thing on?
Just to feel the heat.
Yeah, because there was nothing. So it was pretty much pointless. So it's just sitting in the back there until we get rid of it.
Everything I read, people said, oh yeah, the radiator heater, it's more efficient because once it heats the oil up, it just continues to heat. But that only works if you have a good insulated area to hold that heat in.
Yeah.
And the little fan heaters, they just pump out the heat instantly. And they're not as efficient, I'd imagine, but we obviously don't have an insulated boat. So we've realized that the radiator heater doesn't actually quite work for our application.
This little space heater, that's MVP.
Yeah, because the moment you turn it on, it's pumping out heat. It's perfect. And we run our heater 24/7.
Yeah, so we had no idea what our usage would be. We just never really had to count because it was always fine in the Caribbean, right? With
That
the
worked.
solar and stuff that we had to recharge the batteries. But anyway, we use about 45 to 50 kilowatts of power every day, which is kind of a lot.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people that
No.
are full-time liveaboards keep their heat on.
And we're comfortable right now. Like, I mean, we're not wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I'm still wearing, like, slippers or socks. But a lot of people just bundle up with layers and layers and choose to use less power or allocate their power to other things. Like, a big one here would be dehumidifiers, because it's pretty damp and pretty cold.
It's really damp.
Yeah, but we did purchase a diesel drip heater while we were here. It wasn't the super expensive name brand one. We just got a cheaper version
Cheap
on Amazon.
China one.
But it came highly recommended from other people who have used this particular one. And we have kind of half installed it now, but that is one other thing that we've gotten. We figured that when it gets really cold, what we could do is turn on the diesel heater just to get the overall temperature up. And then our space heater monitors the heat, like when it reaches a certain temperature, it'll turn off. So if we've gotten the boat up to where we want it, we kind of just turn that off, and then we can have the space heater doing its thing like normal.
Yeah, but we also got the heater, the diesel heater, so if it's not, you know, beautiful, sunny, 20-degree weather when we leave here, we can still be comfortable at anchor.
Potentially leave a little bit earlier and still be okay out there.
Dual use for us.
Over on our Patreon, we did upload a video of our soft install, so we haven't hard installed it yet, so we might do a video on that, not sure yet. We don't have enough amperage to be able to designate
Another power cord to
the
a
dehumidifier.
dehumidifier.
But we have a small one. If you've watched our boat tour video from like way back, a lot of people asked about this little $50 dehumidifier we got from Amazon. And it works great in our aft cabin. We'll shove it in the V-berth when it's not too cold out. I had an instance where it froze when it was super cold, but other than that, like, it's been fine.
Yeah, we had minus temperatures here for a couple weeks, and our V-berth was starting to sweat like crazy, so I put a little dehumidifier in there, and they work the same as a fridge. They suck the moisture out of the air.
But the little coil
But
froze.
the coil froze, so like no water went into the tray, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets really bad and we really can't stand it, maybe we'll think about a big dehumidifier, but we'd have to sacrifice heat. To deal with some of the condensation, one of the things we decided to do to alleviate it, or try to, is we've installed these little vents along the floorboards, or I guess on like the lower part of the, what do you call that area?
The baseboards.
Like the baseboards. So we're just gonna pop these puppies on. Perfect. Yeah, that looks good.
2 more.
These fit nice. Good job on the measuring.
Here we kind of have some sweat marks down in the bottom of the wood. So we just pull sawed 2 1/8 and then put these stainless steel painted little grills on.
We just did it where we noticed it was starting to really collect in the wood because the wood starts to change color a little bit. We figured that needs to get some air running through there.
Another thing that we had to change, which doesn't really have anything to do with the shore power or anything like that with the boat, but with our cooking. Our stove and our oven run off of propane, and on the boat we have 2 North American tanks, a 30-pound tank and a 20-pound tank that last us a really long time, cooking 3+ meals a day, a whole ton of baking. Our 30-pound tank would last us like 4 or 5 months of constant use, $50 American, give or take, and we're good. Fill it and forget about it, and people would refill it for us. But over on this side of the pond, they don't refill our North American tanks, so we've had to change those. And we decided to go with butane camping gas.
Yeah, and we did this because all the research that I found is you can get these camping gas bottles. You can get them anywhere in Europe. So we figured, okay, if we know we're going to be traveling all over Europe, we might as well just start off with what we can get everywhere. But what we realized is up here in Ireland and the UK, they're extremely expensive. Like the tank alone is anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds for the tank, and about the same to get it filled. We bought 2 of these, one to change out, one empties. Those things only last us
2.5 weeks if we're lucky. So we've had it die when we're mid-cooking a meal and it'll be dwindling. So we at least thought about getting 2. So if I see that the flame's going out in the oven, Travis will quickly go up and change the tank. But because those tanks are tiny, they just don't last very long. And I think the most we paid to refill one was 54 pounds, which is like $90 Canadian. So that was just outrageous for 2.5 weeks of cooking on board. And that wasn't even with baking. Like, we tried to be pretty conservative with cooking only because we knew how short-lived those tanks were. So we probably could have done a little bit more research, but we refilled those a few times, and then we were fortunate enough to have a kind neighbor here help us out.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where we can get, because our second tank was getting low, and I started asking people where to get these refilled around here.
Because we couldn't really find it as easily as we thought here, right? Like, they were always out or whatever.
Yeah, so because the UK and Ireland have their total own different style gas companies, and those are readily available kind of all over. But the camping gas, because it comes more from mainland Europe, they're actually quite expensive. That's why they're really expensive here, and they're not as available. They are available, but not as available as mainland Europe. So he had an old tank, an old 13 kilogram tank sitting in his garage that he said we could borrow. So
Propane tank.
Yeah, an actual propane. We like propane better, I think. I don't know why, we just like it better. So he lent us the tank, and it only cost us 40 pounds to fill it.
And that'll last us the whole time that we're here.
Yeah, that should last us the entire time we're here, which is way more cost effective. So now it kind of got us thinking a little bit. I found that you could buy used ones online for quite cheap, anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds. So if we spend anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds on a used tank and 40 pounds to fill it, that should last us far enough into the mainland Europe that we can then change back over to our blue bottles, and the cost effectiveness from there will outweigh the 10 to 20 pounds we spend on a throwaway tank. In the Caribbean, I think those little blue 6 kilogram tanks that we bought, the butane ones, they must have been 10 to 15 euros. That makes more sense, you know.
Everybody had them, so we're like, oh, they're probably cheap.
Yeah, so
they don't last long, and they're not cheap.
We cook a ton, like a ton on this boat. So we need something to be more efficient. Just try to find the UK, Ireland tanks, find the used tanks, and just get them refilled and use it while you're up here, because it'll save you a ton of money, and then change your system again when you head to mainland Europe.
Yeah, if you want to get camping gas.
Yeah, we just thought camping gas would have been the best, but it's not up in this area. It just took us a few months to figure it out. It just cost us
a little bit of money before we realized, there's got to be something better than this. You don't know what you don't know?
You don't know what you don't know. We were concerned because everything you read online, you're like, oh man, to get a boat over to Europe, or a European boat to North America, the costs are extravagant. You got to change your whole electrical system over, and it's all crazy. Sure, if you want to keep your boat here full time and run on the appliances that country has, sure, it'll be very expensive, but you can do it very cost efficiently, and that's, I think, the way we did it.
Yeah, the only
in total
foreign appliance we have is the little space heater.
Yeah, if we never use that again, that's fine. It only cost us a little bit of money versus thousands that we would have changed a lot of our electrical over so we can use those appliances. So I think in total we spent, it was like 200 or 250 euros on the Victron charger, 15 amp charger, which I'm pretty sure there's cheaper ones out there if you had to go that route. And then we just bought a basic extension lead from the hardware store. Came with 2 plugs and a thermal breaker, which was nice for, obviously if it got too hot, it shuts off.
And then the space heater was like 30 pounds or something like that in the canal.
Yeah, and we just ended up spending a little more because we bought the radiator here that we're actually going to try to sell now because it's kind of, we don't like it. So,
yeah.
But you can do it, if you're coming north, you can do it very cost effectively. But if you're heading south and you wanted to run AC and you're going to be at a dock all the time, that's a whole different ballgame. I won't get into it because, the AC runs a ton of power.
That's not what we're using it for, so.
I don't think we're going to run AC anyways because we haven't. But heat, it's like you need to run heat. Otherwise, the boat just does all sorts of horrible things with condensate, sweat, freeze over, and you're just freezing. But
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we are looking forward to heading to some warmer climates where we can be a little bit more self-sustainable, because that's what we love about this life, being able to make our own energy and use our own energy.
So hopefully that helps you guys with maybe some questions you had about bringing a North American boat over to Europe.